What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, you picked the perfect video to start watching, because today I'm going to be chopping up this 73 Dodge Charger to stuff in this massive 8-liter Viper V10. I've always wanted a Viper, but I realized that unless I wanted to do nothing and save my money for quite some time, I wouldn't be getting one anytime soon. So I found this 73 Dodge Charger on Facebook. Looked super nice and it was pretty cheap. So I went out and looked at it and I bought it. Then I started looking for a Viper engine, because if I couldn't have a Viper, the next best thing was a Dodge Charger with a Viper engine. So I found this Viper engine in Connecticut. I saved my money, ended up selling my truck, and we went up and we bought the Viper engine. It also came with the original T56 6-speed manual, so both of those things will be going in this car. And my plan for the car is to build it for SEMA and have this thing be my ticket to recognition in the car community, like some have done in the past, like Riley Stair, Cam Kokalis, and so many others. When I first bought the car, it was in pieces. Every single piece was inside the car or on the floor around it. So I loaded it all up into a massive trailer, brought it back here, and we just got it put back together. Now that we've got the car together, I'm going to start on getting the engine in. I took some measurements. Our motor mounts are 22 inches apart. You can see right here and the one on the other side. These original motor mounts would have been cool if they would have worked. It looked like they're the right bolt pattern or whatever you call it, but they're like 14 inches apart. I measured the height of the engine. It's about 26 inches if it were sitting on this K-frame, and that's probably like right up here, about an inch above the fenders. So we're gonna have to do some stuff there. First issue is that our engine is 36 inches long. That's about the whole engine bay. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove this steering gearbox. I'm gonna cut these motor mounts out, and we're gonna cut out some firewall, and then we will start fitting the engine. It's gonna be a lot of in and out and seeing what we gotta do. Then once I've got enough room for it, I'll make some motor mounts. We'll get it in place and then move back and start making clearance for the transmission. Got that gearbox out. Next step is to get the stuff out of the car. Now that we've got her all cleaned out, you can see what she looks like inside. These floors have been replaced, although the trunk floor is original and very clean. Not that that really matters, because we're gonna be cutting all of it out. I'm gonna begin cutting on the firewall and getting those brackets off. First cuts on the car, no going back now. So I know this is pretty messy. Don't worry. This car is going to be getting a whole new firewall. Right now, I'm just getting it out of the way. We need to find the position of the motor, and then we can clean things up. So I did go in and trim it up a little bit more, just so hopefully we won't have to come in and out too many times with the motor. This thing is huge. I don't want to damage it. We're going to leave stuff for the windows. We'll have definitely a dash bar in the cage to support it, but right now it's unsupported and I don't want this to droop, so I'm gonna have to add some bracing. There is some factory bracing here and possibly one that goes over there, so I'm gonna see if I can find that bar in my massive pile of parts, but we may have to also tack some pieces of metal in there to keep this from drooping down. That went surprisingly well. If you guys have ever welded on any kind of sheet metal, especially old sheet metal, I did grind it down, but you guys know that
it can not be fun sometimes. So the fact that this went smoothly, I didn't get any porosity, didn't blow through it, it wasn't super thin. The fact that that went well, I'm going to take that as a sign for the future of this build. Now that we've got this tacked in, I'm a little more comfortable, and we can go ahead and start getting the Viper engine ready for a test fit. So this engine is set up to run on this stand. As you can see, we've got our full wiring harness and ECU, the fuel tank, all that stuff. So I basically just have to disconnect all of that and get it so that we're not going to have any interruptions. Anything that's dangling off, I want to get out the way so it's not annoying me as I try to fit this thing in, and just clean it up a little bit so that the only things we have to worry about being in the way or hanging down are things that really we need to have there for clearance. So I've got the engine all stripped down as much as I want. I've got the whole harness off, fuel tank off the stand, pulled a few lines, AC lines and stuff off that were just hanging. No reason to have them in there. I've got the bell housing on here. We'll be able to tell a little bit where the trans is going to be if we need more clearance just for the bell housing. We'll cut that back further. I believe I'm probably going to have to cut the entire trans tunnel out because there's not a whole lot of room. The 727 that was in the car, the 3-speed automatic, is pretty small at the end that goes back under the trans tunnel, so we'll have to make some clearance there. But first we're going to get this thing in and at least get this far clearing and somewhat in position. Obviously it's not bolted in yet. I've still got to make motor mounts, but this was a good chance to get it mocked up and get some cool photos. Right now, I've got some more areas here marked to cut because when we put it in, we had to turn it sideways, lower it down, and then turn it back straight because it wouldn't clear the rear cowl here and the radiator support at the same time. You can see here our bell housing's a little bit high. Of course, the engine has to come down entirely. Right now, our crank center line is about 16 inches. Our goal is 10.5 from the ground to crank center line. So we will have to figure out some stuff there. Eventually, this K-frame will be gone and it'll be a tube chassis girdle, but I'm not sure how we're gonna get the motor down with the K-frame still in there. I've got to see what my options are there. Maybe we can notch it out for now, but right now we're gonna pull this thing back out, possibly put the transmission on it, cut some stuff out, and drop it back in. As you guys saw, there's a whole lot more coming out. This is just getting interesting. We've got our K-member notched. I may have to widen it out a little bit. The oil pan is about 8 inches wide, and we've got maybe 8 1/4 here, so I'd like to have at least 8 1/2. We'll grind it up a little bit, get it a little wider. I think it's safe to say we've got plenty of room up in here to get at least the motor down in. With the transmission on the back, that might be a little more interesting. So we got this other brace in. I added a little weld to that brace just so that the welds don't flex instead of supporting the structure that they're supposed to be. I'm not quite sure if I need to do anything for the trans tunnel area. That transmission cross member goes up and around here, so I think that should support it pretty well. So I think we're all set for bracing.
Since the motor was so high up and so far forward, I wanted to get it further back so that more of our weight is over the rear wheels. That's part of the reason that I cut this area out, also to make it easier to drop in. So the next time we go to put the motor in, we're gonna scooch it back as far as we can. I'm figuring the back 2 cylinders are gonna be inside of what is currently the cab. Because of that, I took some measurements for where our transmission would land, and it's gonna come basically back to somewhere in here, right before this weld seam. So the next order of business is to cut out this whole trans tunnel and make room for that transmission. Let me show you what we've got going on underneath and what the plan is there. So you can see underneath the floors, we have a cross member that goes all the way across and comes up and supports the trans tunnel. We're gonna have to cut out this top portion of the cross member that the trans tunnel sits on so that the transmission can sit directly on top of this original bracket. Our bracket is definitely not going to line up and bolt in, so we'll figure out what we're gonna do once we've got it in. But for now, I'm gonna tighten up the bolts on this transmission bracket to the cross member, and we're gonna go ahead and cut out what's gonna be in our way. I didn't see you there. Let's take a look at the engine. I will make an entire video of all compilations of this engine in the car before I get tired of it, because it looks awesome from every angle. Enough admiring. Let's talk about what we had to do to get it where it is now. So as you guys know, right down here, I had to notch out this K-frame. I cut a little deeper even into that than you guys had seen. Another apparent thing right up front. To get it in with the trans, I had to cut this radiator support out. That maybe wasn't the most awesome idea because the car did kind of fold out a little, just a little bit, maybe 1/4 of an inch. So I'll have to be careful of that. I think it should be all right because the frame rails are in place and I can always line the fenders up a bit better and weld something in here if need be. You can see we took a bit more out of here as we were putting it in, and
I'll go into the cab now and show you what we took out of the floor. So this stuff you guys saw, we trimmed these back a bit where the hoop went over here, cut the corners off of the floors so it would fit back in, and I believe that is about all that we had to cut out. We also removed the transmission bracket that was down in here for the factory transmission. I thought for a second that these mounting bolts were going to line up with it, but these ones were too wide compared to the bracket, and that was a little further forward than I wanted the engine. I'm not sure if I have it right where I want it right now. I might want to bring it back even more, but right now it is lined up with this piece. The mounting holes on the trans are here and here, so those are lined up with the removable piece of this cross member. So that's going to be my plan for mounting. I want to unbolt that cross member, design one in CAD that will bolt in there, and have it CNC cut. And then I'll weld it together, bolt it in there, bolt the trans to it, and we should be mounted in the rear. And we'll have to do the same up front. Let's go check out where the motor mounts are landing up there. So you can see our motor mounts up here are pretty well in line with our K-frame. So I'm kind of liking this position right now because, like I said, we'll be making CNC cut mounts for the transmission and for up here. So I'll be able to design them so that they'll weld right to the K-frame. These are just temporary for getting the car moving and getting somewhat of an engine position. The only other issue we have right now is the engine is leaning forward by just a hair. I can compensate with that by making the transmission mount that I designed drop the rear end down a little lower. At least now our engine height in the front is looking like it'll clear the hood, I hope. Maybe I'll throw a straight edge across here or just throw the hood on and lay it down and see what it looks like. But now back to those brackets. I didn't say Send Cut Send is going to be making those brackets. That's who I usually use, but I figure with all of the custom work I'm going to be doing on this car for this swap, for the tube chassis that will be coming in the future, and for the turbo system, for everything that I want to do, it's all going to be custom. I think it's time that I get myself a more efficient and more advanced system of making brackets as opposed to an angle grinder like I have now. I do have some experience in CAD. I've designed some pretty cool brackets and stuff like that for intercoolers, for rear mount turbos, and I've gotten them through Send Cut Send. But now I'm going to build a CNC plasma table. It's going to go right over in that corner, and we're going to use that to design and build motor mounts, transmission bracket, and so many other things on this car. So in our next video, you will be seeing us building this plasma table. I'm using plans from a guy on YouTube called Homemade Madness. So I'm gonna go ahead, buy those plans, start getting on building that plasma table, and I will catch you guys in our next video.